All right, everybody. How's everybody doing out there? I am Perry White. Welcome back to On the Yard Network, of course. As you know, every week, myself, along with my man, Zach McKinnell, we recap SEC baseball players. We are ready for Omaha this week. Two teams from the SEC headed to Omaha. We'll talk more about that. We'll look back at some of the play from the super regionals, talk about the SEC, and then just look at the overall landscape of college baseball of some teams that, hey, did you see them making it to Omaha? Because I know I did not. It's a couple teams that I know we're going to have the discussion about today that caught me off guard. But nonetheless, of course, my man Zach McKinnell is going to join me. And we're going to talk about the super regionals as well as Omaha as we continue to go through this season of amazing baseball. And as we get closer and closer to crowning a college baseball champion, I think a lot of us looked around and thought maybe the SEC was going to do a little bit better job, be a little deeper as we got into Omaha. But now we're down to two. And man, those two teams are going to battle it out as soon as we get started. My man, Zach McKinnell, about to jump on with me, and then we're going to be ready to rock and roll. Talk about some things. Let's get my man Zach on. Zach, what's going on, man?
What's up, man?
Going.
Man, doing good. Staying busy as always. You know how it goes. Almost.
Staying busy as always, man. You know, as we get into this, I'm talking about Omaha. Before we get started, man, as always, I'm Perry White. I'm the host of the Jaguar Journal on 107.3 FM here in Baton Rouge. You can catch the show every Saturday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And if you want to keep up with the Jaguar Journal, of course, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and you can keep up with the Jaguar Journal across all social media on X, Instagram, as well as Facebook, and as well as you can keep up with On the Yard Network on Facebook. Be sure to hit the like and follow button and hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. And for you, Blue, let everybody know where they can keep up with you, man, and follow you.
Yeah, FCS Football Central on SI, the Blue Bloods on all podcasts and YouTube streaming platforms, and right here, man, covering SEC baseball throughout the season.
And you talking about FCS football. I was looking at something early before we get ready to get into this whole baseball thing, but it was a story about Amante Edwards. Remember Amante Edwards?
Yes.
And it was just saying, you know, the forgotten hero of FCS football, man. And I go back and look at that guy's career starting as a true freshman and over his time at Appalachian State. Of course, a lot of people remember back in 06 with the huge upset at the time beating Michigan over at the Big House. But, man, Amante Edwards, man, was truly that dude on the FCS level.
Yeah, one of the more, like you said, underrated players probably all time, man. Like, people don't remember how dominant that Appalachian State team really was. But, I mean, they won 3 consecutive national titles, and it's like they were one of the more current dynasties, and if they would have stuck around in the FCS, man, we'd be talking about them year in and year out, probably competing with the North Dakota States, the South Dakota States. But I mean, he was the first quarterback in Division One history, man, to throw for 9,000 and rush for 4,000 yards in a career. So it just shows you how good he was. And also, too, is the first ever person to win the Walter Payton Award in back-to-back seasons. So, the FCS Heisman, he just, I don't think his game translated well to the NFL level. But, man, in terms of a college quarterback, man, but when you talk about some of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time, you got to mention him. I mean, especially that '08 season.
No doubt about it. And guys like that, especially when you look at the landscape of college football today, no doubt about it. He wouldn't have stuck around all 4 years at Appalachian State in this new college football world that we live in today.
No, not at all. The NIL deal would have been outrageous.
All right, Blue, let's give the people what they want. Let's jump right into it right now. There are two teams. Here we are. Then there were two. We came into the super regional, coming out of conference tournament plays. 13 teams entered from the SEC. Then we got into the super region. There was still a handful of teams left. And as we head to Omaha, there are 2 left. And let's start with one of the teams that did not make it to Omaha. Let's go over to the super regional that was in Auburn, Alabama. Of course, your alma mater, the Auburn Tigers, taking on Coastal Carolina. And let's go to game 1, which was played on last Friday, Blue. And in game 1, Auburn fell short by 1 run. 7-6 was the final score as Coastal Carolina on the road at Auburn, able to get it done. 7-6 final score. The Chandeliers get it done off of 10 hits and 2 errors on the other side for the Tigers. 11 hits, 1 error. Coastal Carolina continues that win streak, go up 1-0. Here we go. Let's get the game, too. We think maybe this is an opportunity for Auburn to battle back. This is a team that has looked really good all season, especially out of conference when they stepped out of SEC play. And it was all Coastal Carolina in this one. 4-1 was the final score of Coastal Carolina, able to put up 3 runs in the bottom of the seventh and hold on, adding 11 hits the entire game with 0 errors on the other side for Auburn. 8 hits, 1 error. Coastal Carolina closes it out 2-0, and they win the Super Regional over in Auburn, Alabama, man. Your thoughts on this one and looking at your alma mater in the Super Regional?
Oh man, this one was tough. I'll say this: the biggest thing for Auburn was the inability to turn hits into runs. I think they left 15 or more runners stranded this weekend, Perry. And you look
Mm-hmm.
at that game one, it was the slow starts that continued to happen for Auburn where they get down. Because you remember, even in that 7-6 game, they were down big early. They had that long rain delay. Then Auburn got really hot there, and then Coastal was able to get that huge home run there in extras. And then you look at game two, man. Auburn's offense just could not figure it out. And I'll say this: I think you look at Coastal now, 23 consecutive wins, Perry.
Wow.
You sweep Auburn at home. You are dominant in your regional, and I don't think this is a team that you're going to see blink on the biggest stage. It's a team that's been to Omaha. They were there in 2016 where they made that run to the title. And I'll say this, Perry, I think this year's team is significantly better than that team. Just in terms of on paper talent, I get it because everyone's going to look at the Arkansas, the LSUs, the UCLAs, the Oregon States, the Louisvilles, all these P5 teams or P4 teams. Man, it's hard to make an argument that Coastal shouldn't be looked at as a favorite going into Omaha. And
23 consecutive games. I don't care what sport that is, bro. That is hard.
and their head coach even said it. Their head coach after the Auburn series was like, "Man, we never felt like underdogs. Like they were like, but we should be the favorite going in." And listen, I'll say this just in terms of consistency, how well they've hit, and their pitching staff is just so timely in terms of delivering key out. I mean, there were multiple times where Auburn had their pitching staff in trouble, and they just find a way to escape without allowing a run or bases loaded. They only allow one run and turn a timely double play, a big catch here in the outfield. Shortstop making a hell of a play, second baseman making a heck of a play. So, Coastal Carolina, man, I think is on the right track here, man, and they are a really, really good team. And I'll say this, Perry, if I had to like name my top two or three favorites to win it all in Omaha, I think I would have Coastal in there.
Yeah, and I had that conversation with one of my buddies, man, who graduated from Arkansas. And, he was just talking about Arkansas and LSU. I was like, I don't understand how anybody looks at this Omaha visit from Coastal Carolina and not look at them as the team to take serious because I think it's kind of going under the radar of the fact of they're not this huge team everybody's talking about. But if you know, you and I have been talking about them throughout the entire year as we looked at them as a representative out of the Sun Belt. And it was them, Troy, Southern Miss as the teams out of the Sun Belt that we were saying, hey, keep a close eye on because these teams can make some noise. Southern Miss, of course, fell short. Troy did as well. But guess what? Coastal Carolina just continues to chug along. And you said it best. They're not new to this. They've been here before. They've hosted the trophy before. So this is nothing new to this program, but nonetheless, it's just no, they're not this huge big name program that we've seen like most of the teams that a lot of people want to see and back that typically go to Omaha. But they are a team nonetheless, Zach, that when you look at 23 consecutive wins, I just don't know how that can be ignored no matter who the opponent is, no matter what level it is. That is a tough feat, especially taking the team all the way to Omaha.
Yeah, just I mean, to me, they're one of the more complete teams it left in this tournament, man. And I'll say this: it's just a team that has it's hard to quantify, right? Like when because we can break down all the stats fair, we can break down all the player analytics, we can break down strength of schedule, all this kind of stuff. There's just intangible things that can't really be quantified, and this team has that it factor where they just know how to win. And even when things get tight, even when the other team's rolling, they still just stay locked in on winning. And I think the winning culture, the winning DNA in this team is really what separates them from some of the other teams that we saw not even make it to Omaha. And
Hmm.
I think that's why and I think that played a huge part in why they were able to go into Auburn, a really, really tough place to play, and find a way to get that sweep.
Big win for Coastal Carolina. Congratulations. They have punched their ticket and they are headed to Omaha. Let's move on looking at the SEC. Another big matchup was West Virginia taking on LSU and Baton Rouge in the Super Regional. And this is a game because we have been talking about West Virginia. They came on our radar like a little bit towards the end of the season, like, hey, has anybody been paying attention to this team? Because they quietly entered the top 25 conversation and they worked their way up as maybe a potential team to even host a regional, but unfortunately, they did not get a chance to host a regional. But they won a regional and found themselves in a super regional in Baton Rouge, in which LSU came into this thing having gotten pushed to the limits by Little Rock. The Trojans, Eula had really did everything they could to really even have to make Jay Johnson switch up some things as a coach headed into that final game. And here we are with the matchup of two teams that won 40 plus games on the season. And this was a hell of a matchup that people thought between the Mountaineers and the Tigers. And we go to game one that was played on last Saturday. I had the privilege to be able to go to Alex Bach and cover this game. I did the regional and then go over and do the super regional. Interesting enough, it was hot as hell, 2 p.m. first pitch on Saturday. When I walked around the stadium as the game, people were passed out everywhere, Blue. If you had a drink before this game, it was not a good idea. And I think thousands of people realized that at Alex Bach, but nonetheless, we know those LSU Tiger faithful are going to support their team no matter what. And they supported them through a victory in game one. 16-9 was the final score as LSU were able to put up 7 runs in the bottom of the fifth and another 6 in the bottom of the sixth inning to take the lead and hold on to it and command it as the Tigers had 8 hits in this ball game and 2 errors on the other side for the Mountaineers, 11 hits and 1 error. In this game, one thing about it, the Mountaineers did not want to go away. LSU just had to continue the battle. And then we made it to game 2 on Sunday. Inclement weather in the area. This game continued to get pushed back and ultimately got pushed back to about a 7:55, 7:56 if we want to round it out at 8 o'clock first pitch. This game then between these two teams was going to determine who goes to Omaha, and LSU did what they need to do at home. They won the game. 12-5 was the final score as the Tigers able to put up 5 runs in the top of the second and another 6 in the top of the seventh. LSU in this one, 10 hits, 1 error on the other side for West Virginia, 6 hits, 3 errors. Have to be impressed with LSU coming out of that tough, strenuous regional with Euler pushing them to the limits, but coming in and then with their pitching and their hitting, just finding a way to get it done over a really, really, really good West Virginia team and closing them out. And the Tigers are headed to Omaha.
Man, what a dominant performance all weekend. I mean, listen, that LSU's offense this weekend was just unbelievable. Like you said, I mean, what, 12 runs and on one game, and then what, 16 in the first game. And I didn't think their pitching was spectacular this weekend, but man, when you jump out, I think if I'm not mistaken, they jumped out to what, a 6-0 lead in like the first 2 innings in that last
In
game.
game 2.
And I think West Virginia kind of gave them a little, tightened it up a little bit midway through, and they just si- they just had full control of West Virginia. And me and you both picked LSU to win in 2, and this is why. And we talked about this. LSU, when they're locked in and they're dialed in, because we know that they have the talent on the pitching staff to be dangerous, right? With Anderson and what is it? The reliever, is it Cohen? Zach
Yep.
Cohen.
Yep.
We know their pitching is going to be excellent, especially game 1, 2. But it's the bats that sometimes lack consistency, and man, when they get going, they're just tough to beat. I think you saw that, man, and I think LSU is really and truly one of the hotter teams outside of maybe Coastal going into this thing. The only thing that worries me, and we'll kind of talk about it, a little bit later. Man, they just got such a bad draw. I mean, the fact that they got to go Arkansas right off the bat is just a brutal draw for the Tigers. And we'll talk about Arkansas soon, but they looked really good this weekend too against a really good Tennessee team. So it's just LSU was dominant, but man, it sucks because I mean I guess every matchup could be a national championship matchup once you get to Omaha. Perry, if you had to put likelihoods on it, Arkansas, LSU, if they were on opposite sides, might be both our picks
Yeah, no
to,
doubt
to be
about
in
it.
so we have a national championship matchup game one in Omaha. And so I'm going to be very curious to see how the Tigers match up against the Razorbacks in that first game.
But it was good to see how LSU kind of established themselves back at the toast of the conference as SEC conference play continued to go as we got towards the season finale. Because look, this is a team that went on the road. They lost against Texas, right? They got a chance to redeem themselves at Oklahoma, and then they came home and held it down against Tennessee and Arkansas. Now this is the same team that went on the road and lost to Texas A&M, who was kind of still finding themselves. And we were kind of looking at this team like, where does LSU rank amongst the best of the SEC? And as we looked around the conference at the time, it was Texas, and then it was kind of everybody else. But LSU just seemed like week in and week out started to regain their composure and really assert their dominance. And you said it best once you saw them flip the switch. You said, no doubt about it, this team is starting to look like one of the best teams in the country. And I think no doubt about it, as they went down the stretch, they began to truly look like one of the best teams in the country. And now they're actually playing like one of the best teams in the country. I mean, just look at that lineup when you're talking about being able to hit the ball anywhere around the park at any given time. And when you factor in Alex Box Stadium, it is a magical place. It is a place when you hear them spell out Tigers to make the hair on your arms, on the back of your neck, and anywhere else stand up. It is a tough place for any opponent to try to go in there and get a victory. And Jay Johnson does a great job with managing this roster, knowing when to go to the bullpen, and then just the luck of the draw, how he lines this thing up in order to get guys in that may not have been particular playmakers throughout the season consistently, but when he needs them, they play up, and when it matters most, they make the plays for LSU. And right now, the way that LSU is looking, the way that they handled West Virginia, because West Virginia was no slouch of a team. You're talking about a team that went 44-16 this year, headed into Baton Rouge, and then ended the season. This is a team that had really good pitching and could hit the ball offensively with the best of them around the nation. And LSU found a way to be dominant in both games and close it out without any hiccups that we saw the previous week in the regional, which you saw them kind of just say, hey, let's see if we can get through this with this and that. But it almost got them put out at home. Now looking at this team headed into the College Baseball World Series in Omaha, man, this LSU team is dangerous. And right now, as you said, they're having to go up against Arkansas, which we're about to get into Arkansas now. But overall, looking at this LSU team, when they flipped the switch on and really turned it on and looked like one of the better teams, they struggled early on. They just didn't seem to be one of the top teams. They were going to seem to be a good team. But when they flipped the switch, Blue, you called it. And since then, they have really been playing up as the team that they are right now as one of the better teams in the country.
Let me ask you, this would be a quick one, and we can move on to Arkansas here. I look back because I saw a lot of social media chatter, and some of the LSU media were quick to call out fans. There was a lot of talk that there were LSU fans calling for Johnson's job mid-season. How insane does that look now?
Very insane. And I think Jay Johnson has that attitude when he's in the press conference, the way he commands it, because he's not a silly guy at all. He's kind of very straightforward. He's serious. He answers the questions directly, and he lets you know the real. And I think he felt the heat on him. I think a lot of people's, because this team didn't make it to Omaha last year. This team got put out against North Carolina. A lot of people felt like this team underachieved, and because of the way we saw them. Let's not forget, this is a team that got ruled by Northwestern State on a Tuesday night that had a lot of LSU fans confused on what the hell happened. So I can understand when you start to get the fans saying, hey, that shouldn't happen to us. We're LSU. That should happen to maybe somebody else, but how does that happen to us? Then you lose to Texas A&M. Then you have that huge series on the road at Texas. You begin to have chatter like that, especially from a fan base that wants a lot out of this program, because this is one of the winningest baseball programs of all time. And the history that they have here and just a sure win of one-to-win championships, it creates that pressure. And no doubt about it, you will have a fan base when you have certain things happen that they don't feel should happen to us. You will begin to have that fan base speak out. And I think that's what you started to have with the fan base here in Baton Rouge, as Jay Johnson kind of was working his lineup and working his way, allowing this team to grow up into what we see now.
Mm, it's still crazy, but we got to put it in perspective sometimes. I understand like fans have frustration, but firing a coach like him is insane. So we can move on. But I just had to ask. I saw a lot of LSU media on social media finding old tweets and stuff like that, and just asking fans if they still felt the same way now that they made it to Omaha.
No, they didn't. And then Jay Johnson in that last post game press conference against West Virginia, normally they try to have a time frame where they say, Coach, all right, we'll take about three more questions. It got down to, hey, Coach, we're going to have two more questions. Coach said, look, we won the game. We had the Omaha. I'll stay here all night. Ask me whatever you want. It's already said and done. We're moving on. And for him, I think that was to everybody to let them know, hey, whatever questions, whatever doubt, ask it now because clearly we are headed to Omaha. What more can you say? And congratulations to LSU and Coach Jay Johnson and his team turning it on, and they are headed to Omaha. As we now look into Fayetteville, we run Fayetteville to the Super Regional. It was Arkansas taking on Tennessee, two SEC schools. And how about Arkansas with the luck of the draw to get Tennessee in the Super Regional, now to get LSU in the first game? It's just basically the SEC season all over again for the Razorbacks. But nonetheless, I think all eyes were going to be on this one. Tennessee, the defending SEC conference tournament champions from a year ago. Of course, Vanderbilt won it this year, and Tennessee, the defending national champions from the College Baseball World Series last year. Arkansas was the team that was standing in their way. Both these teams played each other in the series to end the regular season. Arkansas won it, and there was a lot of chatter between the two coaches that I think turned a lot of heads as that series was over. And for me, I looked at it and said, man, look, this one is going to get real chippy between two teams who understand what it means to get to Omaha. As Tennessee got there last year and won it all. And in game one up in Fayetteville, it was a hell of a game. 4-3 was the final score as the Razorbacks got it done off of 10 hits and one error. On the other side for the Volunteers, 2 hits and 0 error. Then we go to game two, and it's all Razorbacks in this one. They busted this thing open, putting up 5 runs in the top of the fourth to add another 3 in the top of the seventh. 11-4 is the final score. The Razorbacks get it done off of 10 hits and 0 errors. On the other side for the Volunteers, 8 hits and 0 errors. Tennessee didn't want to go away, but the Razorbacks flexed this muscle and moved on. And are you surprised that the Razorbacks were able to do what they did against Tennessee, considering going back into that last season, that last series to end the regular season? The Razorbacks won 2-1, and then they go in this one and win 2-0. That's 4-1 against Tennessee within the last month. Are you surprised at the way Arkansas dominated the Volunteers this part of the season?
You know how we talked about last week UTSA just having Texas's number?
Mm-hmm.
Example 2 right here. I just think Arkansas is a bad matchup for Tennessee. I mean, because look at the distinction with Liam Doyle, who's the ace for Tennessee. He was dominant all year, but Arkansas consistently, like if I'm not mistaken, they got 8 runs against them in their regular season matchup. And then in game two, they had to take him out because the bases were loaded, and then the next pitcher gives up a grand slam. It's just
Busted
like
wide
that
open.
that stadium is just like a house of horrors for Doyle. And I think it I don't care how deep you are, right? And we know that Tennessee's deep. They just won the national title. Pitching this year wasn't as deep as last year, but if you can't if you can't lean on your ace, Perry, it puts you in such a bad position no matter how much depth you may have. And I think it was Tennessee didn't have anybody that they could rely on to get them a game, right? Because LSU felt like they could get a good game with their ace. Coastal could get a game. Even Auburn was 1 run away from winning that first game. They felt good getting one with their ace. Like everyone feels like they should be able to win with their ace. Tennessee did not feel like that. I don't know if Tennessee thought they had a shot with their ace just because of how bad of a matchup it's been for Doyle. And I just think the fact that Tennessee wasn't able to capitalize on that close game one, Perry, I think I picked Arkansas in 3 in this one. When I saw that close loss in game one, I'm like, this couldn't this might not be good, right? And you saw the energy in that stadium on
Yep.
Sunday and how locked in Arkansas was. And once that grand slam happened, the wheels just kind of fell off there. And I think it goes back to the sense of frustration we felt from this Tennessee team all year is that on paper they have the talent to win the national championship, but they just never have translated that to the field. And there's just been so many mental mistakes, so many lapses, and judgment and trash talking and after the game and you just saw it boil over time and time again. And I just think it just kind of defines Tennessee's season. But I mean, Perry, you look at Arkansas now, right? Let's shift it back to the team that's still in this thing. The 12th trip to Omaha now, Perry.
They call them
Is
the
this
Omaha Hawks.
hey, is this finally the year?
Is it?
Perry,
Don't hype
throughout the
me up.
hey,
I tell you, as an Arkansas race, don't do that to me. I've had heartbreaks, and I've had more heartbreaks than I think one could have taken.
they've won 5 games in the postseason, Perry, by a combined score of 41-13. That's dominant.
It is.
They're rolling. You have to feel like if they can find a way to get past LSU in that first game, you feel pretty good about your chances here. Because look, Murray State's a hell of a story. UCLA's UCLA. I don't see either one of those teams knocking off Arkansas personally. So
Yeah,
luckily, you're on the other side of the bracket of Coastal, who I think is probably the favorite on the other side. If you get past LSU, you got to feel real good about your chances if
no
you're the
doubt about it.
Razorbacks.
And then I think, as a Razorback fan, and I think I can speak for many Razorback fans, we've seen these teams and programs position themselves to be successful, to be able to win the big game when it matters. And once they got to the big game and when it mattered, and everything seemed to be pointed in the direction of getting a W and winning it, we found a way to let ourselves down because of the high expectation. And that's the tough thing about being a Razorback fan. I think many Razorback fans can agree with me when I say this. It just seems when the moment with the bright lights and everybody watching, it seems they then falter. Now, that's one thing I will give to LSU. When the lights are at its brightest, it seems LSU stands for that moment. That is the moment where, while they have so many magical games and so much history of why their fans look at just the pride that they have within that team, because they know when it matters, they have found a way to come through. Every time, no, but when it matters, the vast majority of times they have come through. Arkansas fans, that has been the issue, saying, damn, when is it going to be our moment when the light's bright? Because unfortunately, when the lights are at their brightest, we watched our team lose in the most horrific way, whether it was a pop fly, whether it was giving up a huge lead, just whatever the case may be. And that is the most detrimental thing to a fan base to have to deal with that, especially like you just said. People have you as the favorite. You look like the clear-cut favorite. But somewhere along in that area, you find a way to give it up, and then you give it up while everybody's watching. And that's just the worst way to go out. And for Arkansas fans, you know it. And if they're listening, you know just like I know, it is tough no matter the sport. Let's look at some other games blew around around the college baseball super regional before we get into the Omaha games. How about Louisville getting past Miami? Then we look at Florida State and Oregon State. Oregon State just a team that knows how to get to Omaha, and they are headed to Omaha. Arizona with the upset, beating North Carolina. Then we got UCLA handled business against UTSA. And I think the one that turned everybody head when it came down to a game 3, Murray State and Duke. Murray State doing it for all the underdogs out there, all the little schools from what I heard. The coach still cuts the grass himself. The stadium holds about 600 to 800 people. And when you put them up against these big name schools, that's like, oh my God. What do you mean the coach still cuts his own grass? What do you mean the stadium only holds a few hundred? It sounds so old-timey, but hey, there's plenty of programs out there that have to do it, but it lets you know the separation of the money and how everybody. I remember when LSU went to Thibodeau this year to take on Nichols. There was a photo floating around. People couldn't believe the LSU baseball player was standing in line to go use a porta potty. In 2025, that just sounded like that was so 1970, 60 that in today's money, why should a player be at the stadium using a porta potty? But nonetheless, Murray State has made it. And now we have our matchups with these teams that have turned heads. And out of all of these teams and out of the conferences, 3 teams coming out of the Pac-12, in which I didn't think I was going to see happen coming into this if you would have told me this a few weeks ago. UCLA, Oregon State, and Arizona All the three teams representing the Pac-12 headed to Omaha. Out of the SEC, the next closest, with two teams with LSU and Arkansas. And then representing the ACC is a team that I didn't think it would have been. When you looked at where Florida State and Clemson had been pretty much most of the year battling in that top 5, top 10, it's Louisville who find themselves representing the ACC. Representing the Sun Belt is the team we had already been talking about in Coastal Carolina. It was Troy, Coastal Carolina, and as well as Southern Miss, who have been playing some really good baseball. Coastal Carolina found a way to break through. And then the Missouri Valley Conference, Murray State right there representing the little one, the little dogs, as they say, not the underdog, but the little dogs, have found themselves punching the ticket to Omaha. Looking at the conferences, where we are at now, Blue, and look at how everything rounded out. Your thoughts?
Yeah, okay. We'll start with Murray State. What a story. I mean, it's just and okay, so we talked about it last time, and we were a little bit skeptical just because offensively they they were just electric offensively, but the pitching wasn't there, right? They were allowing
Mhm.
a lot of runs on the other side, but you look at them now, they're just the fourth four seed from a regional to advance to the College World Series since 1999. Fresno State, obviously won the national title, I believe, back in like '08. You had that Stony Brook team as well that we talked about the last show. But you look offensively, man, 19 runs in game two. Five was pretty low on Monday, but you look, they scored 70 runs through seven postseason games.
You're
It's
talking about offense.
the question for Murray State for me, Perry, can they stay out of the losers bracket? Because that's where these lower seeds really struggle when you get to Omaha. You get
Mhm.
put in the losers bracket. You got to play more games now, and your pitching staff just isn't deep enough to survive. And that's my concern with Murray. What a story, though, would it be if the Racers find a way to get there? And I think in that last game against Duke, it was just every single time they needed a play made, somebody would hit a home run, somebody would make a clutch play in the outfield, and it was huge. But we'll see what they do. Arizona, I mean, I think good weekend victory, and I'll be honest, man, Perry, I just don't know if I see when I look at the bracket, I really think the national champion comes from one of these three teams. It's going to be Arkansas, LSU, or Coastal.
Mhm.
That would be my pick. I think the dark horse of it would, in my opinion, would probably be Oregon State if I had to pick one. They did a really, really good job against Florida State. There were a few times where they were in trouble against Florida State and just found a way to just flip the script out of nowhere. And you look at some of their wins. I mean, 5-4 in game one. If I'm not mistaken, they were down like 4-1 in that game and had a walk off in the 10th inning to get that one. That they struggled a little bit hitting in game two, but then they just came alive in game three. Scored 14 runs in that one, Perry. So it was just that I really liked how they responded in terms of adversity there. So that's kind of my take looking across the rest of the regionals. I think North Carolina could be sneaky, but I just don't know in terms of matchup.
You mean Louisville?
Or yeah, Louisville, my bad. Yeah, Louisville. For me with Louisville, their pitching has been so much better in the postseason than the regular season, Perry. How far does that carry them?
Yeah,
Because if their pitching goes away, I mean, it's going to be, I think, a long tournament for them. So they represent for the ACC though, and I'm going to be very curious. But I think it's very important, Barry, and we could talk about this for the. I think that because I don't know if you saw on Twitter this weekend, the ACC and SEC fans were out in full effect this weekend talking about which conference was overrated and how many teams from each conference got in. It was a bad regional for the SEC. It
very,
was a bad super regional for the SEC because their one team that advanced, Perry, was a team that beat another ACC team in Miami who they didn't play in the regular season. So I'm going to be very curious to see how these conferences kind of shake out because there was a lot of back and forth on social media this weekend.
very much so. And then let's look at the matchups. Things again. First pitch tomorrow. We're gonna have Arizona versus Coastal Carolina. First pitch is going to be 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. That should be a good one. Coastal Carolina, as you said, on a 23-game win streak. Arizona, one of those teams that kind of, if we want to say snuck, they found themselves in Omaha. Then later on Friday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, we're going to have Louisville versus Oregon State. That should be a great matchup. Then on Saturday at 1 o'clock, there's going to be Murray State taking on UCLA. Looking forward to that matchup. And then I think the one that everybody's going to circle, because this is pretty much where everybody's saying your national championship champion is going to probably come from this game. 6 p.m. first pitch on Saturday, Central Standard Time. It's going to be the two SEC teams, LSU versus Arkansas. And this is a game, I think, across Louisiana, across Arkansas, and across most of the South. Everybody's going to be tuned in, seeing what these two SEC teams look like, because they are two teams who look good. LSU won the last time that they played each other in a 3-game series in Baton Rouge. LSU won 2-1 in that series. The Razorbacks able to pull off that Sunday victory. But nonetheless, looking at these matchups, starting it off, any upset that you think, and I guess upset, I'm saying Murray State versus UCLA, Coastal Carolina, Arizona, Louisville, and thinking about coming out of the ACC, most of the year we were talking about Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina even. Didn't see Louisville saying at the end of the day we were going to be the last team standing.
Okay, so maybe a hot take here. I don't think Coastal. Were you saying that Coastal is an upset of Arizona?
No, I was saying Arizona will be the upset
Yeah,
over
no,
Coastal.
yeah, no. I don't see that happening. Louisville, Oregon State, outside, because Arkansas LSU is by far the most interesting game of the first round. But Oregon State Louisville has a chance to just be pure fireworks. And I think that's going to be an extremely competitive game. Um, I still, I, as a, as a baseball fan, man, how great! I don't think they're going to win it all. How great would it be if Murray State knocks off UCLA?
Ooh,
Because
huge, biggest victory in school history. To go to Omaha with all the lights and everybody watching. They may not be able to do the Jello shot challenge win, but if they can get a victory in Omaha, that would be huge for that program.
I'll say this: Have you been to Omaha
I have
for the?
not been to Omaha.
Okay, I went back and I think it was 2019. With those underdog teams like that, everybody roots for them.
Yeah.
And I think the crowd's going to be behind them. I don't know how much of a UCLA contingent is going to be there anyway. I think if I had to pick an upset, just based on principle, I got to go with Murray State over UCLA. But I will say I don't know if it's really an upset because I think they're two evenly matched teams. I think the most likely upset out of all of them would be LSU over Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I don't necessarily consider that a big upset because I understand Arkansas seated higher, but I don't think those two teams have a distinct underdog favorite distinct. You know what I mean in terms of talent. So I think that wouldn't be as shocking of an upset, but it's probably the most likely one. But I would love to see Murray State over UCLA.
I don't think a lot of SEC fans even like the fact that how did
No,
we
no.
get two SEC teams ended up having to play each other? Is that to save the rest of the field, or how did this even happen to those that made this happen?
Um, uh, I don't. I listen. Especially Arkansas fans, right? You're
Yeah,
telling me we got to go through Tennessee and LSU
you know.
in back-to-back weekends? Like, what are we doing? But if you're Arkansas, though, hear me out. Maybe there's an advantage of knocking off arguably your biggest competition early
Yeah.
because the last thing you would want is for LSU to get hot and then now you got to face them in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Because LSU has been, listen, I mean, at the end of the day, Arkansas is known for falling short. LSU's delivered in this situation. Like, they're not going to be, the stage isn't too big for this LSU team with
Not
Johnson.
at all.
And so personally, I would kind of like to get them early.
And I'm the same way. One of my buddies was like, "Man, I really want to see if Arkansas makes it. I'd rather West Virginia." I said, "Let me tell you something. Arkansas, I don't know if they would get up as much for West Virginia, even though you don't take no opponent lightly. But I said, if it's LSU, we know hands down, no doubt about it, the Razorbacks are going to get up for this one. The fans at that game, Arkansas and LSU, it's going to be the biggest crowd probably of the entire weekend of Omaha when these two teams play each other prime time, 6 o'clock on Saturday night. It's going to have everything fireworks that you're going to think this is the college baseball finale for the championship. That's what this game does. And I think because of that, it gives Arkansas that extra incentive to get up to take this game. And I'm not saying they take any game lightly or don't take it serious, but there's no doubt about it. You know you can't sleepwalk going into a game with LSU.
Yeah, no, and the thing that I look for in the top in the first bracket, right, with Coastal, Oregon State, I do wonder if you're Coastal looking at that bracket, and this is no disrespect to any of those teams, you have to feel amazing that Arkansas and LSU are on the other side.
No doubt about it.
You got to be so confident because there's a world, and I'm not saying it will happen. There's a world where Coastal just walks through that bracket.
Arkansas and LSU force you to have to really dig through your bullpen. And I think everybody looking at that is saying, thank you, God. We may not have to dig through the bullpen that bad because these two teams offensively will force you to have to use everything that you have. All your arms will be tired by the time you're done dealing with Arkansas and LSU.
That's what I'm saying. And then there's a world where they got to play 3 times before you get to the final because they could play that first game. The loser could go into the loser bracket, win back, beat the other team in the first game, and then they'll have to play a winner take all, if necessary, third game. What if that happens and let's just say it's either Oregon State or Coastal runs through the top bracket, how much of an advantage is that for them?
Yeah.
So it's really setting up really nicely for Coastal to take all this. And maybe I'm talking myself up here, but I really liked how this laid out for Coastal Carolina. Because I mean, you look that they were the 13 seed in the tournament, if I'm not mistaken. So you got to go through the 8 seed in Oregon State. The other 2 teams weren't hosts. And you look on the other side, you got the 3 seed, the 6 seed, the 15 seed, and the Cinderella story. Not as even, huh? So
No.
I mean, I just think that bracket too so much more difficult, and that really helps a team like Coastal Carolina or Oregon State set up well for a run at this title.
All right, let's do this before we get ready to get out of here. We got to do it. We have reached this peak of the season. We have peaked out. After this, there's nothing else but just recapping. Who you got to win it all, Blue? Who you got, brother? Who gets it all?
Oh God,
I knew I
just
was going to get that response out of you. But I already sound like I know where you're going. You said you're hyping yourself up. It sounds like you want to go Coastal Carolina, but I'm not here to put no words in your mouth.
I really do, but then also part like so my heart says Coastal for sure. That'd be the heart pick. That'd be it's gonna be so fun watching them win it. But my head says the winner's coming out of Arkansas LSU.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Lay it on us as we all await.
I'm going. Oh Lord, I'm going to say. You know what? Just screw it. This is our first year of the show, man. But let's go big. I'm going Coastal. They get their
Oh,
second national title.
oh. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I'll make sure I run that back. If that happens, I will run this back. I will clip this and put it out there. And with everybody here, did you hear my man Zach, who is the fortune teller? He can see the future. Coastal Carolina win it all. I'm gonna go the complete opposite. I'm gonna go Arkansas. I think the Razorbacks. Now is the time. Come on, Razorbacks. I've watched everybody else pick up a trophy in this conference, from Vanderbilt to Tennessee to even Ole Miss. Come on, man. Pick up a trophy and say we are the college baseball champion. And I think Arkansas being here so many times and falling short, now is the opportunity. Now is the opportunity to be able to get that trophy, hoist it up, and for Van Horn to finally say, I told y'all, look what I could do. Because the fans, I think as a whole, as the Razorbacks, are tired of falling short, knowing every year you have one of the better teams, or if not the top team, because the Razorbacks were ranked number 1 at some point this year, along with LSU. But nonetheless, Razorback fans are tired of having these teams and not coming home with a trophy. And I think nobody better wants them to get a trophy than the Razorbacks. After we remember some years back, the pop fly drop against Oregon State. I think Oregon State still scoring against that Razorback team, because once they missed that, the bat started to fly open for Oregon State, and it was nothing the Razorbacks could do after that. So Into this one, I'm gonna go Arkansas. I think now is the time. This seems to be the team, and we talked about it as we got midway through conference play, as they started to have the headlines of the bettors over in Vegas. The Razorbacks, for the most part, was picked as the favorite. Then you had LSU and Texas kind of right there behind them. Now it's kind of like tit for tat for LSU and Arkansas, but considering Arkansas has been in that position the vast majority of the year, Razorbacks, you got to get it done. Van Horn, give the people what they want. We asking for a championship. Can we get a championship, please? So I'm gonna go to Razorbacks, Blue. That's who I think is gonna win it all.
Hit me with that. Not so fast, my friend.
You want it or you want to do it to me?
That's what you hit me with. You were like, man, that's great. Love Coastal Carolina, but let's be real here.
Well, because I mean, the Razorbacks, all signs have pointed to them this year. I mean, everything has kind of had them in this position all year. So I mean, there's the expectation had been high, and the fans are looking at that. Everything is literally pointed the finger as this is a favorite to win it at Omaha. They're going to get to Omaha. This is one of the better teams in the country. They're one of the last surviving teams out of 13 SEC teams that entered the regional. This team didn't do good in the SEC baseball tournament. They were one and done. And it's like, here we are. It's time to play the best baseball we could play all season. Now is the time. And for me, that's what I'm looking for with the Razorbacks. Now is the time for the fans. Do something to make us feel good, Van Horn. And you know what to make us feel good? Hosting up a trophy so we can finally say thank you to Van Horn and the Razorbacks and finally call ourselves baseball champions. I think it's simple as that for the Razorbacks.
So let me ask you, if you had to power rank all 8 teams,
Mm-hmm.
what would be your power ranking going into the World Series?
In all honesty, I would do Arkansas, LSU, Coastal Carolina, UCLA, Arizona, Louisville, Oregon State, Murray State.
Okay.
And I'm kind of hesitant between Coastal Carolina and LSU, but LSU's dominant performance against West Virginia, who was a really good team, but I can't look past Coastal Carolina going over to Auburn was a really good team this year.
Who
They
swept
really were.
LSU earlier this year?
Huh?
They swept LSU earlier this year.
Really good team, so I can't overlook that. So I'm at that swap place between Coastal Carolina and LSU. I really am.
Yeah, mine would be similar. I would have Arkansas at 1, Coastal at 2, LSU at 3. I would I would have UCLA probably at 4, just because I thought they looked pretty dominant in their super. I would have Oregon State at 5, Louisville at 6, Arizona at 7, Murray State at 8.
Mm-hmm.
And that would kind of go along with like where I would put their odds of winning it all too.
And the fact we both got Arkansas at 1 is why I'm saying many people see that way. The Razorbacks can't let down the fans right now.
What's the narrative of Arkansas fall short again?
Arkansas doing Arkansas shit again.
That's 100% fair.
It won't come
100%
as a
fair.
surprise. It'll be like, damn, here we go again. I mean, we find a way to do it in every sport when the lights get big. Here's Arkansas. At this point, like my man said on social media, that CIA is hard at work playing these mind games, trying to see how far people will go to support a team over and over and over after heartbreak. That's the only thing I can conclude at that point, that they're testing us, seeing how strong the mind can be when it comes to loyalty of a program.
That's fair. I'm not going to disagree with you one bit there. It would just be such a disappointing season for Arkansas, man, because all year, I mean, they were easily the second best team in the SEC behind Texas in the regular season.
It
Then,
swept them.
yeah, well, but I'm talking about like in the standings, right? Like they
Yeah.
were a clear number 2, and then you go into the postseason and you arguably are one of the most dominant teams in the postseason. We just talked about their their scoring differential and all their wins. I mean, you look around and it's like, man, if it's not now, then when? And it's funny, we had this exact same conversation, like what, episode 2 this year? If it's not now, then when? for the Razorbacks.
That is the hard part to being a Razorbacks fan. If not now, then when? And I think that's the pressure with Van Horn. I mean, he's given us a great regional. He's given us a great super regional, handling Tennessee the way that he did. You know, it was sketchy as the season went on, losing so many of the series that they did, but still remaining as one of the top teams, not only in the conference, but in the country. But the Razorbacks at this point right now have to show up big, and including against LSU. This is a team, even with vengeance on your mind, saying, hey, they beat us 2-1 down in Baton Rouge. And if it wasn't for that rain delay and that game being played damn near 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe we would have had a little bit more spark in that game. But nonetheless, you got to get up for this one. And Razorback fans just are sick and tired of the letdown when it matters most. When you look at the team up and down of the roster and says, look, this team is built to win championships. But when it's all said and done, you watch somebody else hoist up the championship that you know overall that your roster is probably more talented than.
They just got to get it done this year, Perry. That's all I'm
They
saying.
got to get it done this year. So I'm going Razorbacks all the way in this one. You going Coastal Carolina, I'm going Razorbacks. I hope Arkansas proves it and gets it right. Arkansas, prove me right this year, please. Prove me right, and let's get an opportunity to hoist up a trophy so I can order all the Razorback college baseball national champion shirts that I want, so I can walk around. Because when you walk around Baton Rouge, you got to have a championship on your shirt somewhere. It just can't be the school name. It has to show that you won a championship somewhere, because that's what the Tiger fans know. And if I'm going to be amongst the Tiger fans and I'm going to be talking about the Razorbacks, I can't be on the losing end of that, Blue.
Get it? Because especially if something happens like they lose to LSU, then lose to Murray in the elimination game.
Come on, man. Well, as we reach the end of another great episode, man, we have rock and rolled all year. Hey, never thought we'd get here to Omaha, but here we are. Seemed like it was just yesterday we were getting started, but the weeks fly by. We've gone through the regular season. We've gone through conference tournament. We've gone through the regional, super regional, and here we are. First pitch tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Arizona versus Coastal Carolina in Omaha. My man Zach picked Coastal Carolina. I picked the Razorbacks to win it all. The next time you see us, everybody out there, we'll be talking about who actually held up the trophy and who won it. Zach, for everybody out there, man, who want to keep up with you, let them know where to find you.
Yeah, man. The Blue Bloods on all podcast streaming platforms and YouTube, FCS Football Central on SI.com/college/FCS. And then here every week with my guy Perry breaking down some SEC baseball.
And for everybody out there, I'm Perry White, host of the Jaguar Journal on 107.3 FM here in the Baton Rouge capital city area. Every Saturday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. You can keep up with me on the Jaguar Journal on the YouTube channel. Go hit the subscribe button, as well as follow the Jaguar Journal on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and across all social media, X, Instagram, as well as Facebook. Hit that like and follow button. And as well as follow On the Yard Network right here. On the Yard Network on Facebook. Hit the like and follow button on X, on Instagram, as well as go to the On the Yard Network YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button right there. You can be able to find all the episodes of anything that we've done each and every week. And from myself and my man, Zach McKinnell, we'll be back after it's all said and done, after we have a national champion. And I'm hoping it's the Razorbacks. He's hoping it's Coastal Carolina. For everybody out there, I know you have your champion who you want, but at the end of the day, we'll talk about it when we come back. So from myself and my man, Zach, hope you guys have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next week, all right?